Good evening, friends. Welcome to today's session. Be prepared for a very interesting session because this is where my heart is as a facilitator, the competency-based curriculum. So before we start the session, let me request the panelists to say jambo. Introduce yourself and say jambo to the panelists.
Beth Mutunga, thank you so much for this very wonderful session that we are preparing for.
Okay, so Beth, I brought you on board so that you can pray for us. So you will pray for us after the others have introduced themselves.
All right.
Okay. Anne, please say jambo.
Hi, everyone. I'm glad to be in this panel. I hope you'll enjoy the lesson. Let us be good students as kawaida. Thank you.
Okay. Beth, please pray for us.
Okay. Let's pray. Father, in the mighty name of our Lord Jesus Christ, we thank you this evening for giving us the grace and the moment to be together again for this Zoom lesson. We thank you, Lord, for the desire that was given to us, that we want to learn and become better persons in our service. Lord, this night we pray that you're going to give us the resilience, the energy, and the zeal that we are going to need to go through the session. We thank you for the facilitators. We thank you for the participants. Father, Lord, be with us in everything that we do. We believe in you. We believe in all knowledge and skills and attitude comes from you, Lord. We fill them into us. In Jesus' mighty name we pray and believe.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much. We want to look at what we did last time. Now, can each one of us write something about what you learned in the last lesson? What did you learn? Just use the chat. And Sir George, as they are writing what they learned, please say hi.
Hi to all of you.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Anne, please say jambo.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome to today's session. I hope you'll be good student as normal. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Beth Kahuthia, please unmute yourself and say hi to the participants. Yeah, Richard says, Beth, you can unmute it. Yes, please say jambo. Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Beth. Nice to
Thank
see
you.
Yeah, welcome and join the team.
Thank you.
All right. Tuka, please say jambo. You know, your work is very critical here.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Tuka. Welcome to this session. Then I'll be supporting you in the background.
Thank you very much. Now, as the Nairobi people are coming in, let us now look at what you've written and what you learned in the last session. 7 standards in TPD, good. The Kenya professional teaching standards, very good. How to plan TPD standards achievement, general outcomes of TPD. Rado, are you in a position to assist?
Yeah, I'm ready. Can I go ahead?
Yes, please continue.
They learned rationale for TPD, learned how TPD will help us be better on teaching, legal frameworks of TPD, professionalism. The importance of TPD is to help one to acquire skills and competencies for quality learning. TPD legal framework, outcomes of TPD, purpose of TPD, and Paul, identification of gaps. Legal frameworks of TPD, what is expected from the teacher and the HOI, rationale for TPD, action plan, TPD legal framework. Let us move professionalism. As Julian Kangede, Agnes, today related to Cbc legal framework of TPD, identifying gaps in TPD, Janet, rationale for TPD. Then we have 7 teaching standards, value of TPD, Tabitha. We move, yes, causes of student unrest in schools. Agnes, today related to Cbc.
Yes.
Today related to Cbc. Agnes, yes, Paul, teaching standards, Beth, 21st century challenges, Mentimeter, TPD at school level, John, purpose of professionalism, that is Staffing, methods of teaching, Caroline.
Child-friendly school.
Hi everyone, child-friendly schools, specific outcomes of TPD, necessity for TPD, importance of having a mind shift, indicators of standards and gaps not achieved, specific outcomes of TPD. Agnes. Child-friendly, Becky. Emma, integrating ICT with Cbc, how to identify gaps at school level, an all-inclusive school, some disturbing music in the background, please interfering.
Who has music?
The TPD framework, legal framework for TPD. How to acquire skills for 21st century skills, purpose of professionalism, and development of TPD report. Ezra, some distracting, please, music. Rationale for TPD. The music at the background is sorted. Completion of syllabus and learning. Sawi.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, George.
We move.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sarado. Thank you very much. So, Jen.
Yes.
Jen, please unmute yourself and tell us what you learned.
I learned the difference between synchronous and asynchronous. Very good.
What is the difference?
If I got it right, I don't know if I did get it right. Synchronous is both face-to-face and online learning. That is programmed. If it's but asynchronous is learning at your own time.
Okay, yeah, thank you. You got it right. Synchronous is online learning, like when we are using Zoom like this. You can hear me speak. I can hear you speak.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but asynchronous is when I give you work and then you are accessing, let's say, the virtual campus on your own at your own time.
Okay.
That could be the virtual campus, even WhatsApp. Yeah, I can post their message. You come and see it later. Then you respond. You see, it is not at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is the difference. But that is a very good trial. Thank you very much. Please remain there. Just mute yourself. You will assist me in the process. Mikhail Makovu, please air your views. What did you learn in the last session?
I learned on the issue of preparing a teaching standard plan.
A TPD plan. Very good. Very good. Anything peculiar about that plan?
I also learned that there is what we call the standard teachers and that one for the head of institution. the various standards, and there's also the issue of identifying the problems which raised by anybody and how they can be solved.
Very good, very good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I can see you have written very many responses, purposes of professionalism. Somebody saying, wow, I'm now in. I can remember the 7 kept. Very good. Very good. Yes, that is good. Interesting. Quote. Importance of TPD. 7 Kenyan professional teaching standards. Thank you. And I believe we all noted that now TPD is not something that we can wish away because it is bound. We are bound to it by the law. Once we have been given the law, it is our work to obey. So the only way to obey is to oblige and do what is right. All right, let me now share my slides so that we can now go through the presentation together. As I said earlier, today we're going to look at a very interesting area, an area that actually, anytime I get there, I feel like I have reached where I'm supposed to reach. The competency-based curriculum. I want you to enjoy the process. I want you to enjoy the learning. This is a time where now we need to start searching our hearts, whether the way we were viewing CBC or the way we are viewing CBC at the start of the training or at the start of the session will remain the same at the end. So when we are talking about CBC, we must remember that there is so much that has happened at the background before we got CBC. And that means there is a rationale to it. There is a background to it. Now, searching for a curriculum that is relevant to our children today, a curriculum that is holistic, a curriculum that can nurture the potential of our learners and integrate both curriculum and co-curriculum activities together as in a system, or rather a curriculum that will involve all that concerns a learner, had to be found, because there were challenges that were found with the current system, rather the 844 system, despite the fact that 844 system had reached a point where it had achieved its objectives. Now, the overarching aim of the new curriculum is to equip citizens with skills for the 21st century. So we are not saying that 844 is bad. No. 844 is a good is a good system, yeah? It is actually a good system of learning. The only challenge is 844 was initiated before the 21st century, and it has been there for a very long time. And now with the inception of the 21st century, we need something. We need a curriculum that can really fit in and help all the learners to acquire the 21st century skills. Now, CBC nurtures the aspirations of the country, which places emphasis on the learner's competence. What can they do? The character, the virtues, patriotism, citizenship, and ability to coexist as a responsible citizen. So as we get deeper into CBC, you will come to notice that it is not like it is very totally different from what we know or from what we have been doing. It's only that it is emphasizing on us being intentional when it comes to matters values. Now, what are the learning outcomes? Beth? My sister Beth?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, maybe you can tell the participants exactly what is a learning outcome and what are the learning outcomes for this session. Why are we not saying objectives? Why are we talking about learning outcomes?
Thank you so much. When we talk about the learning outcomes, is what we expect to see at the end of the learning. For example, I'm very happy that as participants, you are able to say what you learned last time. So you have the outcomes of what was expected during the learning. And therefore, when it comes to the CBC, mainly is to enhance awareness. I mean, the reason why we are conducting this is to enhance awareness of the need of the curriculum reform. Why was the curriculum reformed? As the chair has said, there are so many things that have taken place. So why did we have the need for this curriculum reform? So at the end of this session, we shall be able to see why the curriculum had to be reformed, demonstrate understanding of the basic education curriculum framework. We shall see that unlike the 844, we had 8 years of primary school, 4 years secondary school, 4 years like that. So we now need to understand what is now the framework of the basic education framework. And also at the end of the session, we shall appreciate the importance of core competencies in education. With CBC, it has introduced some core competencies. So at the end of this session, we shall be able to learn the reason why we have the 7 core competencies. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Beth. So the thing is, that is what we want you to okay, we want to sift out of this session, that you will have known something about curriculum reforms. You can demonstrate that you really understand the framework. How can you demonstrate? By maybe responding to some activities that we are going to be sharing together, and also appreciate the importance of the core competencies in education. Now, as usual, TPD is structured in such a way that we have to start from what you know, what you want to learn, before we can now tell you what is there that we are supposed to deliver. Now, as usual, we will use the chat because our webinar does not have the provision of breakout rooms. I will request that we use the chat. And Sarado Ukwe Chonjo, yeah, please write down what you know about the competency-based curriculum. What do you know about the competency-based curriculum in Kenya?
CBC is value-based education. CBC, it has 3 pathways. Somebody saying it is child-centered learning. It is child-centered. It is more learner-centered. CBC is portfolios. It is 2-3-3-3-3. It focuses on skill acquisition. It is student-centered. It is based on competency of the learner. CBC is inculcated values. Child-centered, learner-centered. CBC, it is talent-oriented. CBC has many pathways. Talent identification. It knows it's more child-centered and focused on child talents. Based on competencies, it is borrowed curriculum from the West. It is holistic. It is child-involving. It enhances competencies of learners. Learner-centered. It is learner-centered. It is talent-based. CBC is more learner-centered. It is competency-based. It is aimed at ease as assisting learners to know their talents early. CBC is value-based education and learner-centered. Has assessment instead of exams. CBC is learner-centered. Inculcation of competencies, skills, and ability-based. Brings out potentials in every learner. Those students acquires practical skills. It is based on the learner. It is being implemented now. It helps to tap student talents. It is more learner-centered education. CBC is inclusive to all teachers, learners, nurtures children talents. It is learner-centered. CBC focus on learner competencies. CBC is a very good system of learning that focus on doing. CBC, all students pass exams, provides opportunities for the learner to explore. Teacher is a facilitator. It is more of practical than theory. It is learner-centered, nurtures the talents of learners. It focuses more on the child's abilities other than exams. CBC develops competencies, no teaching, but there is learning. Learner-centered, holistic. It is child-involving. Learner abilities nurtured. Every child is an achiever. Parents are involved in a child's learning. It has a lot of paperwork for teachers. It is majorly anchored on competencies and value instilled in learning. Inclusive. It is not exam-oriented. It is more practical than theory. It is based on some theories. A curriculum that equips learners with skills and knowledge to solve our daily problems. It nurtures skills and competencies. It nurtures every learner's potential. It brings learning to day-to-day life. Focuses on competencies. Teachers is the facilitator. Learner-oriented, can be good if well-funded. Takes care of the learner's talents. It focuses on critical thinking and band creativity. Child-centered. CBC is learner-centered. Allows learners to explore his interests. CBC nurtures the talent of the learners. CBC is learners. CBC nurtures child. Nurtures potentials in a learner. Focuses on ability to implement what is learned. Full of TV. I don't know how to read that one. It is more of practical than theory. Caters for all learners. Talent development. It brings together the teacher, the child, and the parent in learning. Competencies of the learner. Helps learners to move from exam-based learning. CBC is activity-based. What you know and able to do. It is more practical. Focuses on learners' competencies. CBC develops a child's all-round, learner-centered, emphasis on competencies rather than rote learning. Enhances students' talents. It is learning where learners learn by doing. Empowers parents. Aims at bringing up an ethical, empowered, and ethical citizen. CBC is child-centered and activity-oriented on their competencies. Inclusive. It doing well in Finland. Emphasizes on learners' abilities, enhances the learners' competencies. Child-centered and enhances skills. Will address the 21st century challenges. It is burdensome to the learner and teachers.
Okay. I think I like the honesty. I like the honesty. It is giving teachers a lot of work, a lot of paperwork. Well, going in with the right attitude, of course, we will make it. We will not find it very, very difficult as we may think. So, what do you want to learn? Now that you know so much, and I'm sure the head teachers and the teachers in primary schools are now very good and happy with CBC. They are the ones who actually chatted most because they know. Because most of them have been trained. In actual sense, all head teachers have been trained on CBC. Although not all teachers have been trained on CBC. So what do you want to learn? What would you like to learn about CBC? My sister Beth, you can read what they are writing, what they want to learn, so that we don't fail to deliver.
I want to learn the core competences, how assessment learners on CBC, influence of competence to learning, how want to learn CBC implementation. I want to learn or theoretical behind CBC, assessment tools and how to apply them. The best hand junior secondary, how the rubrics are used, how students how it will be, okay, issues of rubrics, classification of students, the implementation of junior secondary, influence of parents, assessment tools, transition and placement of junior high, more about CBC, how to implementation of junior secondary, the self-core competencies, how to assess learners, how assessment is done, how to prepare to separate the learners from teaching and assessment, how to learn how to handle children, how to guide students to take the core competences. I want to learn more about CBC, transition to the next level, digital learning between CBC and Cba. Costly, it is costly for a school. The core competences, facilitate, okay, future of junior secondary, how learners can fully digitize, how learn more on pathways, how to ease and analyze assessment outcomes, solve challenges, how to use ICT, handle pupils at junior primary, how to better facilitators learn gaps, transit to junior secondary, how NEC will call students to junior secondary, how to know that learning has been applied, the difference between CBC and Cba.
Wow. Now, because, thank you very much, Beth. Because, CBC is a standard on its own. It is standard number 2. And we said this is all that we are going to be discussing for all the time that we will be going through TPD. All the levels of learning will have to touch on CBC. So you will be able to get all the information with time, but because of the limited time we have, we are going to touch on a few things and leave room for learning. So we are going to look at this case study briefly. I want us to look at this case study briefly. And what is it that we are supposed to do here? I want us to read case study 2. I want you to read case study 2 and respond to questions that follow. Remember, it is an excerpt that was picked from a newspaper. There could be grammatical errors. That is not something we have written. It is something that we extracted from a newspaper. But it is speaking about what we are doing. So let us look at this excerpt, all of us. Let us look at this excerpt, all of us. Could you read? Could you read loudly so that they listen?
I can do that, huh?
Yes, it is easy and fast.
All right. Hoping that I can be heard by all of us. This case study 2, we are to read the case study and then respond to questions that follow. Following the influence adoption of competence-based curriculum reforms in Kenya, a case study of Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, Nairobi. And it is written by somebody, Nyawira Mushira Penina, in 2018. This study's objective was to determine factors influencing competence-based curriculum reforms in Kenya. The study was undertaken at KICD in Gara area, Nairobi. The objectives of the study is to establish effect of youth unemployment, concerns, life skill considerations, and national development goals are influencing the ongoing competence-based curriculum based reforms being undertaken by Kenyan government through Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. The study sought to answer questions that guided data correction related to specific objectives. This study is significant in that it could justify the need for curriculum reform in this point in time. The research design was descriptive design. This research design is justified in that it helps answering the research questions. Analysis of the information gathered employed both descriptive and inferential techniques. Findings indicated that youth unemployment concerns, life skills considerations, and national development goals significantly influenced the adoption of competence-based curriculum reforms. There was positive relationship between youth unemployment, life skills education, national development goals, adoption of competence-based curriculum reform in Kenya. The study recommended a collaborative approach involving all stakeholders to ensure the adoption does not suffer the same fate as the soon to be replaced 844 system. The study also recommended adequate government support through adequate funding, training of teachers, and equipping of schools. The questions are: one, identify some challenges facing 844 that were identified by the study. I repeat, identify some challenges facing the 844 that were identified by the study. Question two, discuss the impact of those challenges on the overall development of the country. I repeat the question two, discuss the impact of those challenges on overall development of the country.
Maybe, Juma, we can now allow the participants to respond to the first question.
Yes.
Let us get a few responses.
Yes, they are to identify the sum of the challenges facing the 844 that were identified by that study.
I can see unemployment, youth unemployment, no skills, too bookish, unemployment, challenges like teacher-centered, youth unemployment. It seems like youth unemployment was strong, huh?
Unskilled graduate, youthful unemployment, it is teacher-centered, it was exam-oriented, lack of practical skills, exam-oriented, academic-oriented rather than practical, exam-oriented, lack of involvement of learners and parents, unlike CBC, 844 focused on exams, more teacher-centered, too much theory lessons, immoral behavior among the youth, overburdening, exam-based, no values, students frustrated and cause unrest, lack of skills, poor mindset, no practical skills. 844 is more books centered than the practicality, lack of innovativeness, lack of life skills, exam-oriented, not meeting national goals, unemployment, lack of fairness in testing, lack of competency, mismatch between skills taught and school and labor market, lack of practical skills, realization of the national goals, life skills not adequate, lack of skills, a lot of rote learning, lack of more practical skills. 844 focused more on exams, youth unemployment, lack of skills, lack of competencies, no lifestyles, tiresome and cumbersome, exam-oriented, unemployment, theory-oriented, challenges of 844 lack of practical skills. People only focus on white-collar jobs, exam-oriented, retracting, retraining of teachers, not inclusive. It didn't have digital literacy, teacher-centered, exam-oriented, more theoretical, government development goals. Too much content, more theoretical than practical, rote learning, lack of skilled personnel, youth unemployment. Many of those who could not pass exams went to waste. No skills trained leading to poor citizens with knowledge but cannot apply the knowledge in real life. Lack of skills, exam-oriented, lack of space for critical thinking to learners, teacher-centered, no preparation for the job market, too theoretical, based on the exam-oriented, lack of important life skills, youth unemployment, lack of teaching, practical, technical, stroke practical skills, encouraged unnecessary competition, emphasis on white-collar jobs, exam-oriented, mass wastage of 844 graduates, less practical wastage of learners, 844 aimed based only on knowledge, but Cbc aims on knowledge and skill. Had a noble objective in the beginning, but lost track, cramming without proper knowledge and understanding of the content. God, lack of skills from the learners, spoon-fed by the teachers. Therefore, it is a capacity.
Okay, it was all that in the excerpt. I like that. Now, Rado, I think we can now allow them to answer the second question.
Correct.
Yeah. Juma, please take us through the second question.
Yeah, I think the screen now can show the second question, discuss the impact of those challenges on the overall development of the country.
Kazi kwetu, tuanze.
We can see the document now on our screens. I don't know.
Yes, we can. And Rado, your work, endelea.
I can now proceed. The country lacked technocrats. Crime rate due to unemployment. Learners became bookwormers. Exam cheating. High rate of immorality among the youth. Lack of critical thinking and creativity. Increase in crime due to unemployment. Security challenges. Low intake in the job market. Lack of skilled manpower. Stagnation and underdevelopment. Half-baked scholars. Retrogression. Corruption. Wastage of human resources. Unemployment leads to insecurity and poverty. Flooding of the market, e.g. jobs. Corruption and high crime rate. Unemployment. Cheating in exams. Stress and despair to both parents and children. No motivation and lack of skills required on the job market led to corruption, high rate of unemployment, mass rise of quacks in the hospitality industry, and skilled labor, youth who are half-baked, frustration for graduates led to unemployment, high crime rate due to unemployment, crime increase due to unemployment, school dropouts, examination cheating, crime and unemployment, competition in exams leading to examination cheating, unskilled graduates, immorality, retrogressive and idle youth, lack of innovation, no development, consumer economy. Graduates depended on the economy and not aiming at production. Banning of schools, a lot of borrowing and shortcuts. Okay. Drug abuse due to stress, poor workmanship skills, lack of creative thinking, relaxation among learners, unemployment, poor creativity, examination cheating, unemployment of crime and crime increase, lack of innovation and creativity, competition was high, stress among learners, increased competition, lack of skilled labor, hopelessness, in creativity, too many idlers produced, corruption led to a lot of youth wastage, insecurities, switched to use computers, which wasn't joblessness, corruption, wastage of learners, education criminals due to lack of jobs, educated criminals, I mean, lack of self-esteem on learners, indiscipline in schools due to pressure to pass exams. Now, shortcut to wealth.
Oh,
Are those
there
enough?
is so much. There is so much. The
Yes.
impact of those challenges on the overall development of the country. Imagine, and it's like, what can we say? If you have the right education in a country, then you can develop, you can grow as a country. But look at the way we have discussed that the challenges that were posed by the 844 system, or that are posed by the 844 system, they have got a negative impact towards the development of the country. Now, Juma, you can stop sharing so that we continue with the main presentation. So now, Beth, now you can now tell us what is this competency-based curriculum. Now that you are one of the people who initiated CBC in this country, what is this CBC all about?
Okay, thank you. Initially, we were talking about enabling learners acquire knowledge and skills, and that was it. But when it came to the issue of CBC, it was acquiring knowledge, skills, attitudes, so as to help them build character, and also knowing what to do. Not just acquiring a skill, but being able to apply that skill. Meaning that with CBC, we want it to be a long life learning for our children. Not just to be in class and be told we have color red, green, blue, and the like. But this child is expected, even when they go home, they are able to see those colors in their homes. Their red plates, their green flowers, and the like. So that this child now is able to transfer the learning in class into what to do. Like when we talk about driving, for example, you can acquire the skills and the knowledge of driving, but you are not able to drive. But we are saying with CBC, we want that child to apply what they have learned in school to the real life learning. So we are saying that the child becomes, he has the mastery of the skills. He is able to acquire the skills that are learned in class. In a competence-based curriculum, skill attainment and learning are emphasized. So not just the skills, but also the application of those skills. Thank you.
So therefore, okay, so Juma, then what does the word competency mean?
Madam Beth has just told us that when we are looking at competence, what is it that we are looking at is that ability that a learner can be able to apply the knowledge, the skills, and the attitudes and the value gained to successfully perform a given task. So it is actually that use of knowledge, skills, attitudes, and value gained to perform a given task. That is actually the competence.
So in other words, you are telling us that it has to do with the four: knowledge, skills, values, and attitude.
Attitude, yes.
Very good, yes. Thank you. Now, Beth, what are these characteristics of competency, the competency-based curriculum that I'm seeing on the screen?
Thank you, Daktari. So one of the characteristics of our competence-based curriculum is specific, measurable competency. If this child or the learner has been trained about issues of how to treat people in a decent manner, we expect this child, for example, when in a bus, if an elderly person enters the bus or the matatu, the child may stand, not even being requested to stand. So we are expected to see we expected the competencies to be measurable. They are able to do. As we have said, even with a vehicle, after they acquire the skills, now we are able to see them driving the vehicle. The competence-based brings about the learner's outcome. As we said earlier, outcomes is what we are able to see the learner doing. After they acquire the content about a given information, we are able to see what they are doing with the information acquired. Then we have the issue of continuous learner involvement until mastery. So we are expecting this child, let's say they are learning about addition. This child is really struggling to add where it involves carrying. They continue struggling until they acquire the mastery of that content. Again, if I go back to the driving, the person will continue until they acquire the competencies of driving and they are able to move on their own. Use of a variety of instructional strategies, and this is where, as teachers, we are supposed to learn more about these instructional strategies, such that as a teacher, you are using various materials to teach a given concept. You are trying this methodology or the instructional strategy. Probably you are helping the child through look and see, but you still find the child is struggling to acquire that learning outcome. And as a result, you can even take the child to do a game. For example, you are teaching them numbers. You can go out and teach them a game that involves numbers. So we use a variety of instructional strategies. Other learners, you may help them use digital literacy so as to help them acquire the given learning outcome. Then we say it focuses on what learners need to know. The learner need to know. And when it comes to teaching, we always talk about teaching the learner from what they know to the unknown. So as the facilitator or as a teacher, you need to know what does your learner need to know, and you guide them through that process. Then we have pacing instructional to learners' need. We have learners who are fast learners, and therefore you cannot imagine, because learner A and B, they have acquired a given concept, then everybody has. You get to know that learners are different and they learn differently. And therefore, when it comes to instructional pacing, you base them on the learner's need. Then the other one is learners demonstrate mastery of competencies. So you will help the learner until you are sure that they have acquired the mastery of the given competencies. If it was adding by carrying, then each learner has acquired that given learning outcome. Thank you, Dr. Ari.
Wow, thank you very much. Juma, is there anything you want to add on this?
Madam Beth has been very comprehensive on these characteristic on the competence-based curriculum, and I'm happy to realize that, as she has said, they should be measurable. The competence should be measurable, so that as we impact these skills, as we impact the knowledge, the values, and the attitudes, it should always be possible that we should be able to measure and see whether these learners are able to apply those knowledge in their daily life, and really these other characteristics, as she has mentioned, they are well stated. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Juma. The difference between 844 and Cbc education system that students and parents should note. We will scan through very fast the difference between 844 and Cbc education system that students and parents should note. Am I sharing my screen, Juma?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I will allow the participants to read silently very fast so that we can look at the activity, the questions that we're going to look at. Alternatively, let me do this. This is what I used to do when I was teaching comprehension in high school. I give you the questions and then you go and read the article so that we are able to move very fast. So these are the questions. Identify the difference between the 844 and CBC as identified by the author of the article, in the article. Based on your knowledge of the two curricula under discussion, identify other differences between them. To what extent do you agree with the views expressed by the author of the article? So we are going to discuss the three questions after looking at the article. So there I go. I now bring the article. Then Juma, please tell me when you're done. I move.
You can move, Daktari.
Look at this picture. It reminds me of high school. Can I move?
Yes, we can move. We can move, Daktari.
Okay, I think that is the end. That is the end of the article. So you can see the difference between this picture and this picture. Yeah? The pictures, there is what we call picture talk. What can you see? What is happening here? Yeah? How can you describe these learners? And how can you describe these learners? So we go back to the presentation. So that we can now respond to the questions. Identify the differences between 844 and CBC as identified by the author in the article. Maybe here we can use a different method. If at all you have the answer, please raise up your hand. Dina Chemjor, assist us to answer the first question.
It was learner-centered.
It was learner-centered. You know, TPD is supposed to be student-centered. It is not about us, it is about you. That is why we want to give you a lot of time to talk and not the talking from the teacher. Remember, we are saying it should be learner-centered. That is why we are requesting you to talk. Please just talk. Mark Seyeni.
Yes, the skills learned in CBC, they will perform the practical activity. But the skills in 844, you learn through a way of theory.
Wow. Thank you very much, Mark. Jen Zuma.
Okay, the CBC is continuous and it has the skills. The 844, which is continuous in the sense that when you fail an examination, that could be the end.
Good. It's like a dead end. Like you fail, that is it, you're done. Wow. Okay, Cecilia, thank you very much, Jen.
In 844, the teachers used to group pupils as per the abilities. You find that if a pupil is not okay or is not that bright, is grouped with those who don't understand what the teacher is teaching. But you find in CBC, you specify what the pupil is good at, and then you guide from there. Unlike in 844, whereby if you are poor, you are just grouped with those who are poor, and then you tell you as a poor pupil. That's
Wow, thank you. Now we go to the second question, and in this second question, I'll want Monica Nyamote to discuss.
I'm here also.
Yeah, please tell us.
Based
on your knowledge.
I just had another different kind of, like, for example, you see, like the CBC, if you compare it with the Montessori system,
yes,
you find that it's more or less the same. It's kind of like they are trying to adapt the American system. Yeah, it's only that the CBC, they don't have a lot of materials. But if there were materials, then it's going to the American system. So you find that the difference is that in the CBC of the 844, there's more of teaching skills. So, because me, I'm teaching in Montessori and I'm seeing some differences so much.
You seeing some?
Comparison in Cbc and American system.
All right. Okay. Who is next? Who is next? Bansi? Bansi, please.
Now, can you hear me? Hello? In Cbc,
yes, continue.
In Cbc, it is practical, whereas in 844, it is teachers orientation. And it's basically, in 844, it's basically teacher-centered.
Okay.
Cbc, it's practically.
Now, to what extent do you agree with the views expressed by the author of this article? To what extent? Let me go back and see who has raised up their hands. People who have not talked. Okay, Mark?
Yes,
Sayeni?
I wanted to talk on this article, the first one that was talking of parents deeper in their pockets. I wish to disagree with them because now this one depends with both facilitators and the learners. If we are able to come up with good methods, for example, if we are creating projects in agriculture, you come in an institution where there is no farm, you can try to improve on the pocket farms, for example, the bags, and then create something good instead of commenting that parents deeper in their pockets.
Wow. Thank you very much. Chemjor, you ready?
I concur with I concur with the author.
Yes.
That the program is expensive because it's so costly. There is a challenge with the parents. Now that when we talk of this Cbc, there is need for the parents to be so much involved. I am wondering, I teach in high school. I wonder what will happen to our parents, especially those who are not enlightened academically. I don't know how they will assist their learners because there is a lot of problems already with the parents, especially from the primary section. I'm wondering what will happen now when they are given assignments to assist the students when they are at home. Maybe on science related, and this could be a parent who may be a class 7 or class 8 dropout.
All right.
There is a challenge ahead.
Okay, thank you very much.
Otherwise, the whole program is entertaining because it is student-centered and it is nurtured towards nurtured towards the student talents and interest.
All right. Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you for those sentiments. I know all of us have got something to share on this. We are going to share this presentation. You will read the article again, and you'll try to chambua and see whether you agree or you don't agree. And from what we have just shared, as we continue with the learning process, we'll be able to see how can we bring in the parents. There is what we call parental empowerment and engagement. Even before we go far, Beth, what can you say about parental empowerment and engagement? Is it about the parents going to mark books? Or how do we empower parents?
Thank you, Daktari. And I love the observation of the teacher, whereby he's talking about parents who have low levels of education and their children are at high levels of education. Maybe as we move on, you'll get one of the core competences which we are talking about, communication and collaboration. In the neighborhood of this child, there could be somebody who have left school. Are they able to communicate with those people so that they can help them out? Now, when you talk of parental involvement and engagement, is a parent participating in the learning process of the child? For example, some of you who might have read the book we call The Gifted Hands by Ben Carson, the mother was not learned. But even Ben Carson thought the mother was learned because she could ask for their books and go over them, not knowing even what is written in the books. And the children thought, oh, our mother knows about this. But can they also engage people in the neighborhood so that they can help their children in case of challenges in the learning process of their children? Thank you.
So in other words, you're saying all we want to see is the parents getting involved, getting interested on what the children are doing in school. True. It's not about the parent going to mark the books. Yeah?
True, but
just
where they are able
concern.
Yes? But where they are able to assist, then they go ahead.
Yeah,
but
where
not
they are
doing
able.
The work, not doing the work for the child.
All right.
But engaging them in the learning. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And that means the parents have got to be empowered before they are engaged. So who is this that is going to empower these parents? Juma.
Thank you, Daktari. And I want to concur with what my colleague is saying, that when we are talking about the parental engagement, we are saying that the parent gets interested in knowing what the teacher and the learner are doing at school. That means that by the time this child gets back home, this parent can engage this learner and even want to know what is it that they did with the teacher, and find out whether this learner was given a homework, and encourage this learner to work on the homework. And also this parent should be able to follow up with the school and get to find out how is this learner faring in the school. And under this competence-based curriculum, it highly advocates for this parental involvement. That means that as a school and teachers, they should actually bring the parents closer in to their children learning, so that these parents are abreast with what is going on in terms of their children's learning. Thank you.
Thank you so much. More about this as we continue. So Juma, you can share the registration form on the chat so that the participants can now start saying, we were present, madam. So what about curriculum reforms, Beth? We are talking about a country's curriculum ought to be enhanced to attain the national goals of education. And we are also saying that this is essential to ensure that the curriculum addresses the needs of the nation. Now, when we look at the curriculum reforms in our country, can you give us the genesis? Just give us the genesis of how we came about to the point where now we are talking of curriculum reforms.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Ari. We know that a curriculum is not static, and it keeps changing based on the needs of the society. And therefore, when it comes to the curriculum of Kenya, it has some identified goals, whereby even when the curriculum is being developed, all the content try to address to the goals, to the national goals of education. And for example, if we pick on one of the national goals of education, the national unity, as we are addressing the learning outcomes of the curriculum or the syllabuses, we aim to helping the child attain the national unity. For example, at early childhood education, for example, they are able to know themselves and the names of their neighbors. So it helps to enhance the issue of unity even at that very low level of education. Therefore, whenever the curriculum is being reformed, there is always the need to look at the national goals. And maybe as we move on, we shall be able to see that Initially after independence, we only had 6 national goals of education. However, come the year 2002, when there was a major reform of the 844, it was noted that the national goals were not addressing issues of environment and good health. So you find that in addition to the 6 national goals of education, there were 2 goals that were added. One that is talking about the environment, and the other one that is addressing the issues of good health. We shall see them when we get there. Therefore, if we talk briefly about the curriculum, after independence, the education system was trying to address mainly 3 things. I don't know whether the participants can address this. When we got independence, education was trying to address 3 main things. Which are these, participants?
Yeah, you can use the chat. Let us see if you know them. What are these 3 things? Okay, illiteracy, poverty, disease, health, disease, inequality, ignorance, lack of money, mediocrity, poverty, illiteracy. Okay, Beth, have they answered?
Yeah, very, very good.
All
There
right.
was an issue of illiteracy. So the curriculum was supposed to help people get to know how to read and write. The issue of diseases, people have brought it very nicely. During that time, if some of us could remember through history, you never used to have a child until the child was 5 years because of the diseases that were there. So the curriculum was supposed to help people address issues of diseases, then the issues of ignorance. So we have the curriculum that time, whereby the system was 4 years of primary education, 7 years of primary education, 4 years of secondary education, 2 years of upper secondary, which we were calling the advanced, and then 3 years of university. So we have, after that, the curriculum was reformed in 1985, and then in 1981, remember this time we only had 1 university, the Nairobi University. So the president then, the late President Moi, brought in a task force which was called Presidential Working Party on the establishment of a second university in Kenya. The main objective of this workshop was to come up with the issues of the second university. However, when they sat, they came up with the issue of, we need to reform the curriculum, and they came up with the 844 structure of education, whereby they noted that people are going through the education system, but there was problems of lack of jobs. And therefore, they came up with a system to enable the children become self-reliant. And if you remember, this is whereby they introduce issues of agriculture, home science, business studies, so that at the end, these children could become self-reliant. But as we moved on, as we said, education is not, the curriculum is not static. There were reviews in 1992, 1995, then in 2002. This time people really started complaining about the 844 system of education, whereby they were saying there is so much practical work, the agriculture, the home science. And again, if you remember the assessment that were taking place those days, the students who some of us could be in this forum, they were being asked to make pajamas, they were being asked to make stools. But at the end of the day, because of the evaluation, most parents were going to workshops and having the stools made for the children, having the pajamas made for the children. So at the end of the day, we lost the real essence of the change that took place. And that's why in 2002, parents had complained of so many subjects, so many children are carrying so many books. And that's why you find in 2002, Subjects such as business studies, some of the content of business studies was incorporated in mathematics. Aspects of that were in home science, they were incorporated in sciences, and that's why it was called integrated science, and also aspects of agriculture, they were incorporated in the integrated science. However, you find for all this to take place, somebody cannot sit down and make the review. There need to have some studies that were done, some task force which were formed, and they came up with various reports and which brought about the changes in the curriculum. So, Daktari, if we can
what was this task force that was formed then, and what were their recommendations, Beth?
Okay, we have the task force that was introduced. It talked of the need of reintroducing some of these practical skills. They were talking about reducing on the number of the primary education number of years. And you find a lot, the issue of the talents, embracing talents of our children. And therefore you find a lot that is in CBC, borrowed so much from this task force that was initiated.
Okay, so Juma, when what was in this the report of the task force concerning the realignment of the education sector to Vision 2030? We can all agree that considering what we've just been discussing, it was necessary for something to be done. And so one of the recommendations that the task force made was the initiation of a curriculum that is competency-based. Yeah? Whereby we have learners being introduced to the national values, the national goals of education, the national cohesion, and the integration into the curriculum. In essence, what CBC has brought on board is more of the values, actually, yeah? Because the 844 I personally went through. We were among the people who benefited from the real 844 that our late President Moi introduced. Because I can be able to do things that people who are now going through the current system are not able to do. Because we were the people that Beth was talking about. The people that made vitimoto, koroboi, we cooked ugali, we cooked porridge in standard 4, we made tablecloths. You know, like right now I'm an adult, I don't have to take everything to the tailor. I can do some of those things. And so we are talking about a national learning assessment system. Yeah? Moving away from examinations. These were the recommendations of this task force. And flexible education pathways. In that, at senior school level, children can move to different pathways. I don't know if Juma, you are there. Maybe you can add something to that as we are moving on to the rationale.
Thank you very much, Dr. As you have just mentioned, that some of the recommendations, as you have just highlighted, is we can all realize that under the current or the outgoing curriculum, you realize that we have very little concentration on what is it that this has brought in school, and what are the interests of this learner, what is, are the talents of this learner. And by having now the 844 or the CBC, where we were advocating for having a situation whereby these learners can be able to assess the various pathways depending on what they are interested in learning, depending on what their talents are and what they are good in. Thank you, Dr.
Yeah. Beth, what is this about the rationale? Beth? The rationale?
Thank you, Daktari. This is the reason why the curriculum had to be reformed. Remember, in 2010, we came up with the constitution, the new constitution, and therefore the reforms, the curriculum had to be realigned to what the constitution was saying. So with Article 53 is talking about every child has a right to free and compulsory basic education. What does this one mean? Every child, and therefore the curriculum that was to be reformed had to address the needs of every child. And that's why we are saying it needs to be flexible so that every child acquires the concepts of the education. Article 10 talks about the national values and principles of governance. If we look at the curriculum, the CBC, it is addressing issues of values. It is value-based curriculum. Why the Constitution brought about issues of national values is because it was established that the citizens were lacking aspects of values, and therefore the Constitution brought in values. And therefore, as curriculum developers and the people of Kenya, they said, why don't we also bring these values into the education system? And therefore, they were simplified. Other than the way they are in the Constitution, they were simplified to fit the school level. And therefore, the curriculum the CBC came up with the 8 values of education, which are love, responsibility, respect, unity, peace, patriotism, social justice, and integrity. So this is how they were brought into the curriculum from the Constitution. The Constitution also talked about promotion of Kiswahili as a national and official language. And that's why you find that even when people go to parliament, if somebody today speaks in Kiswahili, they are appreciated because the two are the official languages. It also addressed the issue of Kenya Sign Language, which is a language for people who have limitation in hearing and speaking. It also talked about the issue of appreciating Braille. Braille is a method of writing used by people with vision challenges. It also talked about developing and promoting the use of indigenous languages. And that's why you find when it comes to CBC, in the lower primary, they are embracing the local languages. And funny enough, when it comes to upper primary, if somebody has an interest, and this was being discussed, in appreciating their language, it needs to be addressed. And what I know, even at the university, there are some people who can go ahead and do their thesis in a given local language. The Constitution also talked about the emphasis of communication format and technologies accessible to persons with disabilities. For example, when it comes to the issue of, let's say, mobile phones, you find that a mobile phone, you can enlarge the prints, you can bring about speech and the like. So it is embracing this communication format and technologies to be accessible to persons with disabilities. Therefore, even when it comes to the curriculum, if a child is not able to write, they have a right to use technology. Let's say a child has cerebral palsy, they cannot use their hands to write the work. So this aspect of the Constitution allow them to use the format that is accessible, appropriately accessible to them. Thank you, Daktari.
Yeah, so thank you very much for going through that. That is about the Constitution. Juma, what about then Kenya Vision 2030?
Thank you, Daktari. the Kenya Vision 2030, this is actually our economic blueprint, and it dictates where as a country we want to get by the year 2030. And what are some of the things that these economic blueprints advocates for? And we are saying that some of these things that advocated in the Vision 2030 is integrating early childhood into primary education. Why? The early childhood prepares this learner to learning. So if we continue having the pre-primary or the early childhood education outside our main structure of education, then as a country will not be able to monitor and find out the learning that goes on, and therefore we might find that there are gaps by the time this learner joins primary school. So to address that, the Vision 2030 advocates for that integration. The other thing that is advocating is advocated under the Vision 2030 is the reforming of the secondary curriculum. Remember that as the arrangement of the secondary curriculum is under 844, every learner is exposed to all subjects. And we need to realize that our learners are too different. And their interests, again, they are different and they are talented differently. There's one person who will be very good in maths and sciences, and another one will be good in social sciences. So if we concentrate in preparing this one learner who is good in sciences to pursue courses in sciences, then we'll have helped the country more than where we are allowing all learners to be jack of all trades and masters of nothing. And the other thing is that is actually advocated under the Vision 2030 is the modernizing of the teacher training. And remember that teachers are critical component when it comes to learning in schools. And we can only talk of quality learning if we have quality teachers. Therefore, what we need to do as a country is to ensure that we adequately prepare this teacher so that by the time this teacher gets into classroom to teach, he has all the knowledge, the skills that is required imparted in this learner. So we need to give to ensure that we provide the facilities that are required in the teacher colleges and ensure that also the curriculum that is being implemented at that level is also appropriate for the economy that all for the time that that we are living in. The other thing is that of developing programs for learners with special needs. Remember, even our constitution advocates highly about ensuring that no person should be left behind when it comes to learning. Our Vision 2030, and we are also signatories to international protocols, and we are required to ensure that we don't leave any learner behind. And these are the issues that our advocated, and therefore it forced us and all we want to reform the curriculum to ensure that we align ourselves to our aspirations of the 2030. Thank you, Dr.
Now, what about assessment? What about assessment, Beth?
Okay, Dr. Maybe before I move into assessment,
yeah,
I would like to go into more details of what the presenter has talked about, integration of early childhood into primary education. If we look at the systems of education that we have had, we had 7-4-2-3, 7 primary, 4 secondary, 2 advanced, and 3 university. We had 8-4-4, 8 primary, 4 secondary, 4 university. But now look at the education system now. We are talking of 2-6. the two is being recognized. The pre-primary years are being recognized, unlike in the other system of education. And therefore, this one quantifies as to why we are talking about integrating early childhood into primary. So you cannot move from home to go to grade 1. You have to go through the 2 years. But initially, a child could go to class 1 without going through the nursery schools, as we were calling them. So this now, the integration has played parts. Thank you. So when it comes to the issue of, it's about the summative education. As I mentioned earlier, any curriculum reform must be informed by a research. And therefore, in 2009, there was a research that was carried out. It was supposed to establish how is our system and what are people expecting. And as we said, they found that the education was so academic. You all remember getting children going to class even at 6, leaving at night. On Saturday, they are in school. On Sunday, they are in school. So there was so much academic. Then secondly, it was exam-oriented. You remember even in papers whereby you find a private school with school A and school B. Those who are performing well are put in school A. Those who are performing poorly are put in school B. So that when the results will be out, school A performs so well, and therefore everybody is looking for admission in that particular school. So the issue of exam-oriented, it was so high, even at home. Children could be forced to read up to very late in the night so as to perform very well. And even when you meet a child during the school holidays, the first question was, ulikuwa namba gani, so much exam-oriented. So there was little use of formative assessment. That is, how is a child learning? Assessment for learning. So that you get to look at what the child has done in the assessment. What are they missing out? So you find that a child who was performing poorly is left down there. They are not helped to move up because the teachers were not looking at how do I help this child from where they are so that they can move higher. So assessment was limited to summative evaluation. In class 8, if a child felt sick and they did the exam when they were sick and they performed poorly, that was the end of that child. Because it was the end result, the summative at the end, how has this child performed, irrespective of whether they were sick or not. In Form 4, again, it was a summative assessment, not considering how has this child been performing throughout the year. Maybe they were good in given areas, but at the end of the day, how has this child performed, which we call assessment of learning. It did not provide accessible education pathways. I know some of you, as you were presenting, people talked about wastage. And I want you as participants to look at your life and the life of the people you are in school with. You'd find that there was a child who was very good in mathematics, very good in biology, very good in chemistry, but very poor in Kiswahili, very poor in CRE. So at the end of the day, they get A's in the science subject, but get C and D's in the humanities. So that child who would have become a very good doctor, the marks are lowered because of these other subjects. So at the end of the day, we consider child who had become a doctor, they get a C, and therefore there is a wastage. So we are saying now, with this system, it talked about the education was not flexible, so the need for pathways, people brought that out. The need of nurturing aptitude, talents, and interest. Participants, you'd remember, if somebody was good in athletics or even ball games, when they went home, some of them could even be told, well, unajua tu kukimbia, and they would be thrown out. You should be reading. Others who are very good in music, they would be told, can you stop that? wait until you finish school. But we are saying with this study, it established the need for making the education system very flexible in order to prepare the learners for the world of work, career progression, and sustainable development. Skills gaps were also identified. As I told you initially, when we revised the 844 curriculum in 2002, agriculture was dropped and it was put under integrated science. Business studies was dropped. And now the need for people acquiring skills in entrepreneurship, vocational and technical skills. If somebody told you they've gone to a vocational college, then people are like, you must be very poor in academics. Then issues of innovation and creativity, that if you are found to be very good in drawing in class, you are told this is not part of the curriculum. Can you stop it? Then issues of ICT were also noted. And that's why with the 844, we are having what we call the digital literacy, so as to embrace issues of ICT in the curriculum. Thank you, Daktari.
Wow, thank you very much. There is so much about the rationale, and we only have 30 minutes to go. We will try to move faster because you'll get the notes and you'll be able to read. I know you are intelligent people. You'll be able to analyze and interpret what we have written in the slides. So there is the aspect of realigning with what is in the East African community curriculum. There was a framework of harmonizing the curriculum in terms of the structure and the way we do exams to IAC. However, at some point we couldn't agree. Now, to ease mutual recognition of certificates across the region was the main purpose of this. However, did it happen, Beth?
Not really.
It didn't. Yeah, but this was at the background of the reforms. And then we have the global standards. Remember on the first day I said that aspects to do with the TPD is the best practice when it comes to teacher development. Now, when it comes to curriculum, basic learning, CBC is the best practice. When you look at UNESCO IBE, they talk about reviewing a curriculum after every 5 years. If you consider our curriculum, the 844 curriculum, so to say, when was it initiated? Yeah? How many years passed before we thought about the reforms? Were they only 5? If you look at your calculation, it is more than 5 years. So it actually looked like something that needed to be addressed urgently after the realization that we have surpassed the number of years that are recommended for any review to be done to a curriculum. Then we have the Sustainable Development Goals, goal number 4, where it talks about ensuring quality education. We are a signatory as a country to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Being a signatory means that we have to adhere to what has been stipulated in those agreements, that we have to do what the other countries are doing. Also, benchmarking with best practices, best international practices. Probably it is important for Beth, please tell us which countries did we benchmark, so that we are not just talking about best international practices.
Thank you, Chair. With for example, the system, the 2-6, we found that some of the countries that are doing so well, like Southern Korea, South Africa, Singapore, Malaysia, countries like Finland, which is being recognized to be having the best kind of education. Those are some of the countries we benchmarked with, and we found they all go for the competence-based curriculum, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And also the 21st century learning skills and approaches. As we've been talking from the beginning, we've been saying we are in the 21st century and everybody has to fit in the 21st century. So the 21st century learning skills and approaches are actually global standards that we want our learners to be digitally literate. That is a 21st century skill that all our learners need to attain. If you look at the core competencies, even as we're going to discuss them briefly after this, all the core competencies, they fit in the 21st century skills. Now, this is an activity. We are supposed to remind ourselves of the 8 national goals of education in Kenya. Instead of going into this article, maybe we can go to our WhatsApp walls. Please write down any goal that you know, any of the 8 national goals that you know. Let's go to our WhatsApp wall. Those that are not on the WhatsApp walls that I'm handling, please use the chat. Some of us can use the chat.
Yes, Dr. Let me read what they have written.
Yeah, we'll be reading in turns.
Yes. Promote national unity.
Yeah, I have national unity.
National unity patriotism.
National cohesion.
Social equality and responsibility.
Promote individual development and self-fulfillment.
Education for nationality.
Promote sound morals and religious values.
This promote national unity, that's a repetition.
Promote economic, social, and technological development.
Promote the rich and varied Kenya culture.
Promote respect for and development of Kenyan rich and varied cultures. Repeated, thank you.
International consciousness.
What do I have here? Promote respect, national cohesion. I'm repeating the same wall. Patriotism.
Development of talent. I'm trying to avoid what I've read.
I'm also trying to avoid what I've read. Environment. International consciousness.
Education for individual development.
Respect the diversity of cultures. Promote positive attitude towards other nations.
Education for international cooperation.
All right. Promote social equality and responsibility.
Foster nationalism, patriotism, and promote national unity.
Wow. So in essence, you can see they actually know. So when you get this presentation, you will go through this. It is very, very important. It is important for us to look at the national goals of education, understand them, really try to look at them critically. We have 8 of them. You have mentioned them. You can see. We are talking about foster nationalism, patriotism, and promote national unity, promote social, economic, technological, and industrial needs for national development. You'll be able to go through the 8 goals of education and see which one you can and how can you promote this. And Beth will tell us that the CBC is actually anchored on these 8 national goals of education. The last one is to promote positive attitudes towards good health and environmental protection. So if you were to state the way they are, number 7 is to promote international consciousness and foster positive attitudes towards other nations, promote respect for the development of Kenya's rich and varied. You see, all these things, you talked about them, but I didn't see this. Promote social equity and responsibility. I could see promote sound morals and religious values. Now, in summary, Beth, what can you say about the national goals of education?
The national goals of education reflects on the needs and aspirations of Kenyan society. What do we need as a Kenyan? What do we see education help the children acquire? Identify goals that, in your opinion, Okay, that's the question. But generally, that was the need for the goals of education. It reflects on the needs and the aspiration. As I mentioned, if you look at the last one, it's talking about health and environment. What do we want to see? An environment that is good and also people who are healthy. So they are the needs and the aspirations of the Kenyan society. Dr. Ari.
Wow, thank you very much. And then we have the framework, the one that we are calling the Basic Education Curriculum Framework. This is a framework that guides the implementation of CBC in our country, and it basically addresses the vision and the mission statements, the national goals of education, the pillars of Basic Education Curriculum Framework, core competencies, and the organization of basic education. We are going to just give you a kionjo of this, all the 5 aspects that we are going to look at. And most of this work we will have you carry it home. Now, to start with, this is an article that we are supposed to read about curriculum reforms. It's a very educative article. Please, when I share the slides with you, click on the link and read about the need, why we need curriculum reforms in Kenya, and then respond to the question, what do you understand by the big shift? What do you understand by the big shift? Even with that, it is important for us to talk about the paradigm shift in CBC. When we talk about the paradigm shift, we are simply saying we are moving slowly from one to the other. It is not like, pap, we have moved. No. We are moving slowly from content focus to focusing on competencies. In other words, what we are saying, let us have less of content focus and more of focus on competencies. Less of rigid and prescriptive curriculum with limited flexibility to more flexible, a curriculum that is flexible with opportunities for specialization. That is the pathways that we are talking about. Let us have less of focus on summative assessment and competition, yeah, and have more of a balanced format between formative and summative assessment and excellence. Let us have less of emphasis on schooling and emphasize more on education. Let us emphasize less on teaching and emphasize more on learning. Let us make let us talk about learning more than teaching. So what we are simply saying that as we are moving, this is a paradigm shift. We are moving slowly, yeah? We are moving progressively. We are saying that there is no more teaching. We are simply saying, let us reduce, yeah? Let us reduce the aspect of the teacher knowing it all, the teacher being in front all the time. Let the teacher mingle and move towards close to every other learner, so that even that learner who sits at the back there feels like they are part of the system. So that is what is in the paradigm shift. Now, if you look at the Basic Education Curriculum Framework, we have got 3 pillars that guide CBC. And these 3 pillars include value-based education, guiding principles, and theoretical approaches. Maybe, Beth, you can shed some light here about the Basic Education Curriculum Framework.
Thank you, Dr. Ari. When we look at the 3 pillars, we have what we call the values. I mentioned to us, these were mainly brought from the Constitution of Kenya. And then when we talk about the guiding principles, we have giving the learners the opportunity to learn what they have an interest in. Whatever they do, they should do it to the excellency, to the best they are able to do. Issues of diversity and inclusion, parental empowerment and engagement. Dr. Ari have really talked about it. Then the issue of community service learning. is not the school becoming an island in the community. They need to participate in some of the activities in the curriculum. And that's why you saw even in the illustration that Daktari gave us, the children are going to clean in the neighborhood, in the environment, in the neighborhood. Then issues of differentiated curriculum and learning. Then the other pillar is theoretical approaches. When we say that we are going through the pathways or different methods of learning and teaching, we are following the theories. What do the theories say? For example, the theory of the Gardner multiple intelligence theory. Gardner, it says that learners learn differently. There are those learners who learn through vision, better through vision. There are those learners who learn better through hearing. And therefore, when we are teaching the children through CBC, in CBC, we try to identify their best ways of learning, and we use it in the learning process. Daktari.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Daktari.
Yes, Juma?
Yes, from the chat, there's one participant who want to understand what's the difference between schooling and education. Maybe you can shed some light on that.
If you allow me, Daktari, when
Please
we talk about schooling, let's say if you look at the data of our class 7 and class 8, you'd find that the class 8 are very few, the class 7 are more. Reason being that there were selections on who is to join class 8. So here the emphasis was the child going to school. But when we talk about emphasis on education, what is the child learning? And that's why with CBC, a child who is not very good, they will not be limited from moving into the other level. Remember, this is why even the government, the Ministry of Education came up with a policy of no repeat. Because children are being forced to repeat class 7, they would just drop out of school. Because the essence here was just school, but not the learning. I don't know whether I'm clear, Dr. Ari.
Indeed, that is it. And that is why I keep asking teachers, what do you teach? Do you teach learners or you teach the syllabus? Yeah. So that actually brings the difference. When you are emphasizing more of I have to clear the syllabus, it is about rushing to clear the syllabus. We are talking about schooling, just to pass through the system. Yeah? But when you're talking about education, you want to make a difference in a learner's life. It is about the focus is the learner. You want the learner to be able to get something that will help him or her in the future. So in essence, when we talk about education, it should be something that is impactful, something that will bring about a difference in a child's life. And so it is therefore important to talk about the vision and the mission of CBC. So when we talk about the vision of CBC, we are talking about coming up with a child whom we usually call an E-child. In 844, when you say this is an E student, that is a very poor child. But for CBC, an E child is the best child because E child stands for engaged, empowered, and ethical citizen. So that is the vision for CBC. Now, this will be achieved by every Kenyan learner with world-class standards in the skills and knowledge that they deserve and which they need in the 21st century for them to be able to thrive. Yeah? This shall be accomplished through the provision of excellent teaching, excellent learning environments, having adequate resources, and having a visionary curriculum that is sustainable. That this curriculum, even if somebody left the world and left the country and it is in place, it can still be taken up with a different kind of generation without any problem. Now, in order to do this, there is need to develop the teachers in aspects to do with them wanting to learn, rather acquiring more knowledge, and being highly knowledgeable, being reflective, being professional, possessing additional enhanced skills, and having the teachers come out with a lot of confidence with what is modern to be able to guide the learners. Because in the modern world, we are talking about mentoring and coaching. We are talking about facilitating learning. So these are the things that will enable us achieve, get to the vision that we want. That we want a child who is engaged, empowered, and ethical. And the vehicle to get us there is the mission. Now, the mission of CBC is to nurturing every learner's potential. For you to nurture a learner's potential, first you must identify the fact that every learner has got potential. In other words, all learners are successful. And if all learners are successful, then identify that which this learner is good at. And once you identify what this learner is good at, nurture it. So if you do that, then at the end, we will have the e-child that we are looking for in CBC. Now, the way the curriculum has been designed is to be able to bring a whole child to school and have the same whole child at home. For whatever good things this child is able to do at home, they can be reflected even in their work at school, so that the teacher can easily identify what this child is good at and be able to nurture it for them to be able to progress on from one level to another until they get to the point where they need now to move to the pathways, the tracks that they can fit in comfortably without any problem. And therefore the mission will ensure that no child is labeled a failure at the end of it all. In essence, in CBC, we don't have slow learners. Yeah, the teachers in primary schools have now changed their vocabulary. They now know that the people we call slow learners are actually time takers. Given time, they too can do what the other learners can do. Now, let us look at the organization of basic education. Maybe very fast, Beth, you can explain this to us.
Thank you, Dr. Ari. So as we said, with the Vision 2030, it talks about integrating preschool to primary. So if you look at the chart there, we have the child is going to school when they are 4 years. We have what we are calling the age-based. So the child will join school at 4 years. They'll go to pre-primary 1 and primary 2 when they are 5 years. Then when they are age 6, 7, and 8, when they are age 6, they'll go to grade 1. When they are 7 years, grade 2. When they are 8 years, grade 3. Then they'll move to, when they are 10 years, grade 4, 11 years, grade 5, 12 years, grade 6. So that is what we are calling the early years of education. That is pre-primary 1, pre-primary 2, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. We are calling them early years education. We used to call it Roa Primary, lakini Roa Primary did not have the preschool. Then the child now moves to grade 4, grade 5, grade 6. That's where they'll sit for the national assessment. And you all know that currently the children who are in grade 5, come April, they'll go to grade 6 and they'll do their exam at the end of this year. Then we have grade 7, grade 8, grade 9. That is now what we are calling the middle school. Alternatively, grade 7, grade 6, and grade 9, that's what we are calling the junior secondary. All this time, the teachers are helping the children identify what Dr. Ari have said, their interests in learning. And that's now where they move to senior secondary. That's where we have the pathways. So grade 10, grade 11, grade 12, the child has moved to a given pathway. There'll be the pathways of art and sports and sciences. There'll be a pathway of social sciences, and we shall be able to see what are these in the next slide. Then there'll be another pathway of the STEM, science, technical, engineering, and mathematics. That's what we are calling the STEM. Then after that, they'll be able to move to the university or technical institution, and these ones will be based on the number of years a given course is being offered. Then from there, they'll move to the world of work. However, those who are doing science, technical, engineering, and mathematics, some of them may move straight to the world of work. That is the courses of the vocational institutions. Some of them will move straight to the world of work. However, this curriculum, remember we say the Constitution is saying every child has a right to learn. We have children who have special educational needs, and therefore they've not been left out in the curriculum reform. Those who are not able to join the main system, there is a curriculum for them. They'll start at what we call the foundation level, whereby they are given skills of life. There are those who are not able to bathe and wash themselves or even able to walk. They will be given skills on how to perform different competences. Then those who are able to move on, they go to the independent level, intermediate level, then pre-vocational skills, whereby they are given various skills that they are able to do based on their abilities, then to the vocational level, and then some of them may move into the world of work. Dr. Ari?
Wow, thank you very much, Beth. I believe everybody has understood this. It will be very easy for you to follow the arrows to understand it. It is self-explanatory because there is age-based and stage-based paths. Yeah. Thank you very much. So the pathways are elaborated there on those slides, that when you move to the arts and sports, these are the pathways up there. And before, you can go to any of these, depending on which path have you taken from senior secondary. Now, this is an activity on core competencies. Core competencies is our last subtopic. Now, we are talking about core competencies. The TPD has been structured in such a way that you give us what you know, you give us what you want to learn, before we can now give you what it is that has been prepared for us. Now, what do you know about core competencies? What do you know about core competencies? Just use the chat. We will take 4 or 5 answers, then we move on. Communication and collaboration. Communication, creativity, and problem solving. Critical thinking, teamwork. Learning to learn, digital literacy. Digital literacy, learning to learn, critical thinking, unity, communication, critical thinking, self-efficacy, digital literacy, group work. Wow. Oh, awesome. Now, what do you want to learn? Start with WL so that we know that is what you want to learn. What do you want to learn? What do you want to learn? Meanwhile, Juma, please circulate the link for registration again. What do you want to learn? Problem solving, self-efficacy. I believe this is want to learn. Core competencies. Want to learn core competencies. Want to learn how to infuse them. Very good. How to bring them out. Wow, I wish we were having a physical class on this. Beth, you can imagine how interesting it would be.
It would be so nice.
Yeah, self-efficacy, digital literacy and 21st century skills, how the key competencies are instilled in learners, how to incorporate them. Very good, very good. Thank you very much. Now, Beth, maybe now you can tell us something to do with the competencies. But before you do that, Juma, you defined for us a competency. Now tell us something about the core competencies in CBC. How are they designed?
Thank you, Dr. As we had mentioned earlier, we had said that the core competence, the competence is that ability where a learner is able to apply the knowledge and skills, attitude, and values to perform tasks. That's what we have said. And under the competence-based curriculum, there are those competencies or main competencies that as a teacher, you are supposed to ensure that you develop in a learner in the process of the learning. And these core competencies, these are the competencies that are important for this learner in this 21st century. These competencies actually will enable these learners to be able to learn more. That means that this learner, you don't have always to give information. This learner can be able to go search information for him or herself. This learner can be able to use the various medias that are available in the country and in the world to search for information that will read to him or her learning. This learner can be able to engage with other members of the society effectively, and so on and so forth.
Thank you very much, Juma. In essence, we are saying it is about the doing. We want the children to start doing things, to start participating in household chores, to go to the garden. Yeah? Our children should stop thinking that mangoes grow in supermarkets. They need to know that if you take a seedling, you plant it, you nurture it, then at the end you get the mangoes, you can eat, you can sell. So we are talking about real life situations, authentic tasks. Yeah. Now, if you look at this picture, we are going to do this activity silently. But because we will give you the slides, we are hoping that you're going to do the activity. Observe the picture above and identify core competencies that the learners can acquire for the tasks being undertaken. Maybe very fast using the chart. You can let us identify what core competencies can these learners acquire by doing what they are doing. Look at these children, very small indeed. But what core competencies can they acquire? Yeah, we go to the chart. Maybe Beth, now you can be the one reading. Problem solving, cooperation. I'm not good at the chart. Juma, maybe you can help.
Teamwork, self-efficacy, communication and collaboration, teamwork, creativity, teamwork, communication, learning to learn, group work, teamwork, communication, collaboration, innovation, self-efficacy, theory, decision making,
creativity,
respect, critical thinking, citizenship, entrepreneurship, communication,
national service,
innovation, patriotism.
Wow, they are quite a number. And the next question I will want you to take, it will be a take home. I'll share the slides so you don't have to worry. Now let us move to the nitty-gritty of the core competencies in CBC. They are actually based on a needs assessment study that was carried out. Remember, Beth said CBC is designed after a research, after several researches, not just one, yeah? And the curriculum has been anchored on these 7 core competencies as outlined. We are talking about communication and collaboration. We are talking about imagination and creativity. We are talking about critical thinking and problem solving. We are talking about a core competency we are calling citizenship. We are talking about digital literacy. We are talking about learning to learn. And again, we are talking about self-efficacy. I believe when you look at what is here, these are things that are very simple to explain, but it is very important for us to really to understand how can we get to know that this child has can demonstrate the competency of communication and collaboration, can demonstrate the competency of citizenship. Remember, we said it's about the doing, the applying, yeah? That they can show that they have this competency. So, Beth, you can start us off with communication and collaboration.
Thank you, Daktari. When you talk about the core competence of communication and collaboration, we want the learner to be able to interpret and express themselves through a variety of media. And as somebody was asking, let's say the child has been asked to take a photo of or a video of something they have done. And then people are complaining, but not all learners have, parents have mobile phones that can take photos or videos. This child can talk to a neighbor because they have the skills of communication. And the neighbor who has a mobile phone that can do so, they can take the video and send it to school. The participants, they participate in critical dialogue. Remember, we are saying, we as the teachers, we are not supposed to just tell them. They are supposed to sit in their groups and discuss because they have the skills of communication. They have the skills of collaboration, working together. They acquire the skills of listening to one another as they sit as a group. Maybe you've asked them to go and collect leaves and they are discussing the leaves. Maybe somebody has collected a leaf that is red and it's like, oh, you mean we have leaves that are red? So they'll get to know not all leaves are green. Then they'll be able to read more about what they are doing if they're at a level whereby they're able to read. And therefore they're able to create information where the books are saying that all leaves are green. Then they will be able to say, but we have other leaves that are not green. So they'll have an enrichment of the information that they have, and then the enjoyment. Because we are saying with CBC issue, we are not confining them to the 4 walls. They are going out so that they can talk with one another, they can collaborate. Then at the end of the day, with the skills of communication and collaboration, they are clear in whatever they are saying. They are empathetic in case one of them has a challenge. Let's say in a class, an inclusive class, there is a child who cannot see, a child who is blind. When they are going for a walk, a nature walk, another child is holding their hands and explaining to them what they are seeing. So the aspect of empathetic, they are patient with one another. Remember, we don't have competition in CBC. So a child who is lagging behind on a given concept, the other children are helping them get the concept. Then the issue of responsibility. They are responsible for each one of them because they have the skills of communication and the skills of collaboration that is working together. Dr. Ari.
Yeah. In other words, we are saying that the children are able to take turns. They can listen to others. They can be listened to. They can be able to walk along with others. Now, what about imagination and creativity? Juma.
Under imagination and creativity, what we expect to see in this learner is that this learner is open to new experiences and can engage in creative processes to make unexpected connections and to generate new and dynamic ideas technique. What we are saying here is these learners, what we expect to see in this learner is that they need to appreciate the fact that life is not one straight jacket, that things you can only follow one way in doing things. They can be able to come up with different ways of doing and still get the same results. So they can actually open themselves to those new ideas and new ways of doing things and still get similar results. And they are able also to appreciate creative and imaginative work by other learners.
Thank you very much, Juma. Beth, when you talk about citizenship, how different is citizenship from nationalism? How is it different from patriotism? What is it that is in citizenship?
Thank you, Chair. When you talk about citizenship, is living well with your environment. So with CPC, we are saying these learners will be able to contribute to quality and sustainability of their community, the environment, and society. And that's why in the illustrations that we saw above, the children may be noted the shopping center near their school was dirty. And therefore, how do we keep the environment clean? And that's why they went out to clean the environment, to make it better, to make their community better and their society better. So with this, they are able to make decisions and judgment and even solve problems. Like we saw there, they are going out, and because they want their community to be clean, the community to be clean, the environment to be good, that's why now they are going out to do the cleaning so that they can bring a cohesive environment in their neighborhood.
Thank you. We are also talking about global citizenship. It is not just about within the country, it's about going global. That is why now we've introduced global citizenship education, which basically the children are going to learn in secondary school. Now, talking about digital literacy, learners are expected to make use of the technology, to collaborate, to communicate, to be able to create new things using technology, to be innovative, in essence, at the end of it all, solve problems. When we talk about the competency of digital literacy, it's not about the teacher using a computer or using a camera to show them, or using a screen to project what they have downloaded. It is about the child maneuvering, touching the computer, touching the phone, that the child can search for information, can go and Google search and get information. They use technology in a legal, safe, and ethically responsible manner to support and enhance their learning. And this is where basically parental engagement comes in. That if the teacher gives an activity that will require the child to use a phone, a smartphone, for example, the child, we don't expect children to have phones. We expect that the child will use a parent's phone. So when the child gets home, they will request, starting with the aspect of requesting. Values are there. Daddy, mommy, please, can I? Can you help me search for this? How can I do this? So the parent comes in seamlessly. And then when we talk about the core competency of learning to learn, we are talking about searching for information, going deeper. Learners are expected to gain knowledge and skills, understanding through experience, through experiential learning, studying, interacting with others, and going further and Google searching for information. They should be able to understand the multiple intelligences and learning styles and manage their own learning. In fact, in TPD, what is behind TPD is the fact that teachers should manage their own learning and also value individual strengths and set goals. Learners who know how to learn are confident. That is why as you continue learning, you'll find yourself becoming very confident. Why? Because knowledge is power. When you get something new, when you understand something, you become a master of it. You become reflective. In the process, you'll find yourself wanting to continue learning more about that thing. And hence, you become a lifelong learner. You become resourceful. You become like the center of interest. People want to learn from you. And in that case, you become you can become self-reliant. So learning to learn has to do with going deeper into getting more enriched, getting more knowledge, getting more skills, and understanding a certain concept further. Now, Beth, self-efficacy, this is a term that sometimes looks like it is new. What is it? What is self-efficacy?
Thank you, Dr. Ari. This is whereby we help our learners to be self-aware. Who are they? They get to know who they are. And when a learner gets to know who they are, they become self-directed. They don't follow others, whatever they are doing, because they know who they are. And they are able to set and pursue their own goals, not following others. They also make thoughtful decisions regarding their health. This is somebody, if somebody has self-efficacy, they will not go into drug addict, taking drugs, because they will take care of their health, their well-being, and even when it comes to the career pathways, they know this is what I need to do, not following others because they've said they are going through this. Then they'll say, I'll follow what my heart is saying, because they have the self-efficacy. Somebody who has self-efficacy is committed, they are confident, they are goal-oriented, they take care of their health, and this person becomes self-reliant. They don't follow others. They follow the right paths based on their needs. Thank you, Chair.
Well, thank you very much, Juma. Now there we are, critical thinking and problem solving. Coming to the end, this is the last core competency. It is actually the 7th.
Thank you, Dr. Critical thinking. When we talk of learners being able to think critically, what we mean is this learner needs to go beyond just recalling things, but can be able to use logic and evidence to arrive at conclusion. Dr. If we follow the studies that has been done on our learners, the 844 learners, it has clearly showed that we have problem with our learners when it comes to higher order thinking skills. Our learners are not able to develop the higher order thinking skills under the 844 curriculum, because what our learners are very good in is in load running, where they cram information and reproduce in an exam. But where they are supposed to use logic, it's not there. But under the competence-based curriculum, as these learners connect issues to as they perform things, they are able to think logically and be able to arrive at certain conclusions. They are also able to explore new ways of doing things and also learn out of that exploration. And these learners learn that every issue, there are multiple perspectives that they can explore, rather than being just rigid to recalling, as we have just mentioned. For instance, you realize that a learner will be able to count. A learner, a grade 1 learner, will be able to count numbers. But when we come to, for instance, they are required to carry out simple arithmetics, the additions, whereby, and especially when it gets to 2-digit number to 2-digit number, it becomes a problem, because the thinking skills that are required under that situation is a bit higher, but they are not able to connect the counting they had learned to get to these higher order skills. But under the CBC, we will be able to come up with or be able to prepare these learners so that they are able to develop the critical thinking and also be able to solve problems, because under the CBC, it is learners who will be exposed to situations and they are required to solve these problems as the teacher facilitates them in the learning process. Thank you, Dr.
Yeah, thank you very much. In fact, the other day my son surprised me. He was looking for a pencil, and he was like, I cannot see my pencil. I cannot see any pencil in this house. When there is no pencil, then within a short time, he went to the kitchen and came out with the charcoal that was as slim as a pencil. And he told his brother, can you sharpen this for me? I think this can write. You know, he was trying to solve a problem. He was thinking critically. And this is a child who is in grade 2. Can you imagine? So these children are now being developed to think outside the box, becoming critical thinkers and being able to solve problems that are very immediate to them. And now that brings us to the end of our lesson today. The core competencies are to be learned in all learning areas. We are going to tell you more on how you can integrate the core competencies in the process of learning, because it is not going to be a separate kind of subject. Yeah, learning areas have got different capacities to integrate and develop each of these 7 core competencies. For example, languages rapidly integrate communication and collaboration without any challenge. Creative learning areas readily integrate creativity and imagination. Science subjects or science learning areas are more open to integrate critical thinking and problem solving. And social studies is actually highly potent to integrate citizenship. So it is not that you have to bring all this in one particular learning area or one subject. You can grow the children in one area slowly by slowly, because it is not that you're going to develop, you will have the learners demonstrate these competencies in one lesson. No, it has to be gradual, step by step, but it has to be done intentionally. The teacher must have the intention of inculcating this core competency in the learners. And that brings us to the end of our lesson today. And at the end, using the chart, this is what we call group processing. Please fill in the blank spaces using your reflective journal. In other words, we are introducing you to what a reflective journal is, looking back to where we have come from. Can you just say, I have learned that? Please use the WhatsApp walls, use the chat, whatever you will find easy. I have learned that. We are now going through what we call group processing. Maybe Juma, you can help me. We read in turns. Use the chat as I use WhatsApp. I have learned that the teacher must have the intention to infuse the core competencies in a lesson. I have learned about the core competencies. Very good. I have learned and understood the 7 core competencies. Thank you very much. The difference between CBC and 844, the national goals. Awesome. I have learned that not all competencies are incorporated in one lesson. I have understood more about the core competencies. I have learned about the 7 core competencies. I have learned on how to apply their 7 competencies. Thank you. Yeah. CBT is the way to go in this century. Awesome. Continue, Juma.
Yes, under the chart, I've learned the core competencies in CBC. I've learned 7 competencies. I've learned curriculum reforms. I've learned self-efficacy means that child gets aware of himself. Importance of CBC, IHL. I have learned as a teacher, I must also be a learner. I've learned that I don't have to digest all the information for learners, but guide them to think and look for answers themselves. Key competencies, I've learned that all the 7 core competencies. I've learned the vision and the mission of CBC. I've learned citizen and patriotism. I've learned the curriculum reforms in Kenya. Digital literacy is it's the learner to search for more information. I've learned the difference between schooling and teaching.
Awesome, Juma. So let us look at I need to learn more about. This will help the facilitators to prepare your next lesson on CBC. What do you need to learn more about? Remember, I said we cannot exhaust CBC in 2 or 3 hours. What do you need to learn more about?
I need to learn more about how to implement CBC effectively, more about CBC, incorporation of all competencies in different subjects. I need to learn. I need to learn more about importance of the national goals of education. I need to learn more ICT in learning how to have students to their right paths. I need to learn more about implementing and teaching CBC in secondary schools.
All right, thank you. Continue writing them. This meeting is recorded. At the end of it all, we will share the recording so that you can see what your colleagues were writing. So thank you very much for adding us some more minutes so that we can exhaust what we heard from our hearts. And a good teacher is that teacher who is teaching from the heart and not from the head. Thank you, Juma. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Sarado. And thank you so much, Lynette and team, the participants who came on board to voice what their colleagues had. And really, may God bless you. So this brings us to the end of our session today. Parting shot, one word, Juma.
Dr. I just want to appreciate our participants for being active throughout the class, and I want to wish them a nice evening. Thank you.
Beth?
There is one participant who have said, as a teacher, I should be a learner. Thank you.
Awesome. Anne?
It was an honor to have you, participants. Great to be good students. Have a good evening.
Thank you, team. Thank you, participants. You've been a blessing to us, and we believe we have been a blessing to you. Lynette Achieng, please unmute yourself so that you can pray for us.
Okay, let us pray. I hope you can hear me, everyone.
Yes, we can.
Let us bow our heads and pray. Thank you, Lord, for this day, oh my Father. We thank you for the life, and we thank you for each and everything that you're doing unto our lives, oh my God. We thank you for the cause that we are undertaking, oh my Father, because we know that at the end of the course, we are going to have a very great achievement, my God. May you help each and everyone, each and every teacher who is here, help our facilitators and give them good health, oh my God. For I pray that when we are meeting next time on Monday, you be with us until we meet again. In Jesus' name I pray and believe.
Amen. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Amen.
Okay, goodbye.